Okay, so I had a problem with my engine misfiring, and I was pretty sure it was a spark plug or ignition coil. So after I had just checked these front ones just by pulling them out and seeing if it affected the sound of the engine and seeing if any of these were the culprit. It wasn't any of these, and then when I got to the back ones, the rear ones, let's see those. There's one over here, there's one over here, and then there is this one in here. Okay, I don't know if you can see that, it's a little blurry, but it turns out it was this one in here. And when I pulled this one out, the engine didn't get rough like when I pulled the rest of these out. So it means that something along this cylinder wasn't contributing to the engine. So what I did was I went ahead and I swapped this one and that one back there. I swapped the ignition coil and the spark plug on the inside, and then I ran the test again. So now it's this side that is not contributing to the engine as opposed to that side. I did this for two reasons, so that later on when I do have the parts and I'm gonna order a new ignition coil and a new spark plug, when I order the parts it's gonna be easier to swap out, and just as a diagnostic tool, I guess. So let me show you guys what it sounds like when it's not contributing. Okay, so I've got the engine running now, and this is the test I ran with each of these ignition coils. So I pulled this one out, and you can hear the engine rattle. It's a little rougher right now. And then went ahead and did the same thing here. You can hear it rattling. And then for this one, it stays the same. There's no rattle. So that means this one isn't contributing. So this one was on the back before, and then I swapped that out, and so now it's in the front. It's not really rattling like this one would. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but yeah. So once I get a new one, a new ignition coil, a new spark plug, I'll put that in, and it should fix the problem. Okay, so I went ahead and ran another test where I just swapped the ignition coil from this one to this one, but kept the spark plug the same. And after I did that, and ran the same test where I pulled out each ignition coil, it turns out the misfire and then went to this one. So that means it's the ignition coil that's been messing up, that needs replacing, and not necessarily the spark plug. But I'm probably just going to go ahead and replace both. Okay, so I went ahead and bought a new ignition coil and a new spark plug that I'm going to replace. I have everything back to its original spot, and I'm going to replace these two. Let me see if I can show you how to do that. Okay, it's pretty simple. You just remove this bolt. If your car has been running, you might want to let it cool down, otherwise it will be pretty hot. So that's the bolt. And you can pull the ignition coil out, and then you undo this clip. So that's the ignition coil. I don't know if you can see that right there. And you're going to use a spark plug socket. Stick it in there. And turn it nice and even. So that's the bad, or that's the spark plug is actually okay, but because it's been misfiring, it's gotten really gunky. So I'm just gonna go ahead and change that. Here's the new one. Stick it onto the socket. And I'm just going to hand tighten for now. I'm usually pretty worried about crossing threads, but if you do it nice and easy, you should be fine. So I just hand tighten for now. And then I go ahead and put the socket on and try to tighten maybe another half turn. Not too tight. But you can do that if you don't have a torque wrench. I do have one. I have it set to about 12 pounds, so I'm just going to try and just make sure that's enough. So that's about 12 pounds. Here's the new ignition coil. All you do is stick that in there and reconnect the connector. Nice and snug. And then reattach the bolt, which is over here. Snug that up a bit. Okay, let's try it out. Okay, so I went ahead and changed the ignition coil and the spark plug, and there is no more misfire. So that's perfect. I'll probably go ahead and change the rest of the spark plugs when it gets warmer. But right now this will have to do. But yeah, that's it.